The problem when you buy package deals is that there's always bad lots in them. So what I normally do with those lots, because I don't want to kill the deal, right? I'll donate those lots to one of the organizations within the same county. And then what happens, and guys, this is a huge golden nugget that I'm about to drop on you. A lot of the political people sit on the United Way board or whatever that non-for-profit organization is for that area. You now become their biggest contributor when they sell that lot. They want to have lunch with you. They want to talk to you. They want to know who you are. This is your in.
Welcome, everyone, to the Casandra Properties podcast. We're joined today by Daniel Borrero. We have a Staten Islander in the house, actually. He's got an amazing story. He's the founder and president of USA Land Ventures. He's an investor that's been involved in countless units, from fix and flips to buying packages of land, breaking them up and selling them individually. He is a renowned speaker in teaching realtors how to find the investor, think like the investor, to target them so that they can generate repeat business. Really excited to have him on the show today. Daniel, thanks so much for the time.
No, thank you. I'm humbled to be here, and thank you for the invite.
Well, guys, it's our pleasure. For the folks out there, Daniel is a great follow on social, so we'll go over the tags and they'll be in the links below. But I enjoy watching you on social. It's you've got that kind of thing about you.
Oh, thank you.
Comical side and a pretty serious side, and you pull it together real nicely. So
I appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate watching it. So Daniel, you're a very, very accomplished investor. You're a thought leader in the space. Everything from doing the actual transactions to teaching, empowering, and imparting leadership to those who are trying to grow in the business, fix and flips, and buying land packages, something I had done back in 2008, 9, 10. People like to get a flavor of how you kind of came to be in the real estate game. Can you walk us through, the early years? Was real estate always top of mind for you, or?
Yeah, it was one of my goals. So it's funny, since I can remember, I always wanted to be wealthy, right? How was I going to get there was the objective. How did I make that happen? So when I came out of school, when I graduated from college, I actually went back to my old neighborhood where I felt most comfortable, and I opened up a video store. That was 1985. That was my first business, which was right across the street from where I literally grew up in my father's bodega since the age of 9. So it was in Fort Greene, Brooklyn. If many of you may be familiar with it today, it wasn't what it is today. It was considered to be the OK Corral back then. I can't tell you how many people thought I was nuts, including, a lot of members within my family. And within 4 years, I was able to save enough money to buy my first property, which was on Adelphi Street between Myrtle and Park. It's a two-family home, pre-war construction brick. I bought that for $72,000. It's worth today about $2.6 million.
Wow.
Only because of where its location. And I constantly tell everybody the real money in this business is on the long-term hold. Your fix and flips are great for short-term capital, but your real long-term money, the real money's on the long-term hold, on the asset appreciation. So having said that, I bought my second property in Park Slope, Brooklyn. At the time, it was a 2-family with 2 stores. It's now 4-family with 2 stores. We added 2 apartments to it. We went up, and that also is a phenomenal piece of property, not far from the Barclays Center. And it just so happens that my dad, who had the bodega across the street from him, there was a lot that was constantly being dumped on, garbage. And no matter who we called, it never stopped, right? And so he said to me, find out who owns this. Let's try to buy it from them. We ended up buying it from the woman who owned it, who was only a block away. She lived a block away, for $70,000. It was 2 lots together. We rocked it, we fenced it, we cleaned it. And literally, we just had no intent. We didn't know what we were going to do with it. We just knew we wanted it cleaned, and we didn't want any more dumping there. And within the same week, people were coming into our business, whether it be my father's bodega or my video store, asking us if they could park their cars there. So the light bulb went off, right? Wait a minute. so we could actually charge people to park cars here. And we ended up parking 20 cars. So within a year, we had a developer approach us. They paid us $160,000 for something we bought for 70 the year before. And we were like, all right. So I went across the street and I contacted the owners there, bought 2 lots from them on the opposite side of the corner. They didn't know what I was negotiating or what for. They thought I was doing them a favor buying this, right, for 70,000. So we bought that for 70,000. When we closed, I fenced, I cleaned, I moved my people who were paying me to park their cars across the street to the new lot, and that fit 21, 22 cars, 2 additional cars. Literally within the year, we sold that for $335.
Wow.
When they saw the development happening on the corner where we had the first property we sold. Took the money again, did a 1031, bought a property around the corner, another vacant lot that was double the size, two lots that was double the size. There we were fitting over 25, 30 cars. Same thing, $150 a month. We cleaned it, we fenced it. The difference we took and we bought 2 more buildings. We used it as down payment money. 2 more 4-family properties in the same area in Fort Greene, and as well as the lot across the street, or rather around the corner. 5.5 years later, we sold that for $1.6 million.
Wow.
And then did the same exact thing again. We took all that money, and instead of buying more lots, we went and bought more property. We started sprinkling it all over Fort Greene and using it as seed down payment money, 25% down on other properties.
So from a very, very early age, this was just kind of in your blood, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I knew I wanted to get into it. We just didn't know how. But it was funny. I didn't even know what a 1031 was when I did my first land deal. It's when my attorney, Mr. Schumann, said, you need to do a 1031. And I was like, what is that? So it was, I can't say we were brilliant, but what I can say is that we were disciplined. We didn't use any of the profit money to enrich, our lives with consumer items such as cars or homes or vacations or furniture. We literally took every red cent and reinvested it into long-term cash flow.
So delayed gratification.
Totally.
Right?
Yes.
That is something that is lost almost entirely on folks in many cases today. They don't understand how critically important it is, especially when you're starting, that you resist that urge to go out and to buy the new, whatever it is, the new car, the new house, go on those vacations. It's so critically important, because if you're going to get in this business and you're going to stay in this business and you're going to compound, those initial first few deals really provide an unbelievable springboard.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Yep. Well, I hear it all the time. How do you get to that level? How do you get started? Folks, that's it. If you're going to jump into the game, you've got to be super, super disciplined and really make sure delayed gratification, it can't be like a part of your principles. It has to be the principle. You've got to take the money, take the profit, and roll it over. All of us entrepreneurs, if you will, Daniel, share some sort of common thread. Is the entrepreneurial spirit something we talk about a lot today. There's a lot of folks after coronavirus that are kind of trading the nine to fives to pursue entrepreneurial interest. Do you think that that's something that can be taught, or is this something that's just born in some folks?
I think, we could teach it as much as we can. It's unfortunately, though, most people don't adhere to it. So it's funny. I get people all the time who come to me for advice about entrepreneurial. They want, whether it be the real estate side of the business, any business. And I tell them, and to an extent, I even try to discourage them. It's because this is not an easy life. Actually, if thinking back throughout my lifespan, I start to think, well, I must have been insane. This is an insanity lifestyle, right? I don't have to tell you, when you're sleeping, you're thinking, right? How many times I'm sure you've had the same situation where you're thinking about your business, and while you're sleeping, you come up with an idea and you have to wake up and write it down before you forget it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or, while you're taking a shower, you're thinking about all the phone calls you have to make, or the workers you have to speak to, or the contractors, or, the leads that you have to follow up on. There's always a dilemma that you're resolving. That's what we do as real estate investors. We're resolving people's problems. And as a result, we get paid handsomely for it. But we're problem solvers. And if you're not a problem solver, if you're a drama queen and you think and you try to make things bigger than what they are, don't become an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So without question, we were just reviewing core values here, and problem solver is something that came up over and over and over, right? Where empaths, we have to feel what the other person is feeling, right?
Correct.
We have to understand what their mindset is. Their mindset has to be bigger than your mindset. People ask all the time the secrets of being a great deal maker. If I could impart any gift to people, it would be being empath, empathy. If you know how people are feeling, you know what they want to hear, when they want to hear it, how they want to hear it, and your job is to bridge that gap, right? But that comes with a heavy toll. It's not something that you can shut off. It's not something that, just goes away. And I hear this sort of stuff. I'm sure you do all the time. You're addicted to your work and this is all that you know. And, it's not something you can turn on or off. It's there or it's not, right?
It's either you got my accountant, Mr. Hyde, God rest his soul, he was my accountant until he was 92 years old. And he used to say, either you have it or you don't.
That's it. That's it.
You can't teach it. Either you have it or you don't. If you have it, we could teach it. If you don't have it, we could teach it until you're blue in the face. You'll never get it.
And it comes with immense sacrifice.
Yes.
The countless parties that are missed and events with the family, and just time and time again, unfortunately, disappointing family members because, work is just, it's almost all consuming.
Look, the reality is the first 7 years that I opened up my video store, I didn't take one day off. Not a Christmas, not a Christmas Eve, not a New Year's, not a New Year's. I was open every single day. The first 3 years I worked by myself, with the exception of my girlfriend, who's now my wife. When she came home from work, she would, bring me dinner and we would eat together behind the counter in between customers and she'd work with me until 10 o'clock at night. So, the reality is entrepreneurship gives you the financial freedom, but it doesn't give you the social freedom that everyone thinks we have until you reach a certain plateau, of course, right? And then at that point, yeah, of course, then you reap the rewards of your hard work and your sacrifices.
Yeah, without a doubt. So it's funny you're talking about not taking a day off, and that's not at all foreign to me, right? That makes complete sense. Well, of course he didn't take a day off. He started a business.
Right.
We do a lot of business coaching now. And one of the exercises, I've talked about this briefly before, was to have my wife fill out some of the questions that the coaches were asking. And I've been married now for 14 years. And one of the questions was, when was the last, day off? Was it a week ago, a month ago, when you were off, where his phone was off and not answering calls? And she responded, we've been married for 14 years. He's never taken a day off, including our wedding day when he had meetings in the morning.
That's so funny. I had 2 meetings a day.
It's crazy, right?
Yes.
It's crazy. So I'm working hard now to try and find the balance. You do get to a point where
it is difficult. I'm not going to kid you. It is difficult to find the balance. But as I get old, I'm starting to realize got to smell the roses, and listen, we all have different values as far as what makes us feel rich. A car does not make me feel rich. A nice car. Actually, it angers me if I when I spend a lot of money on a vehicle and it's sitting in the street.
Yep.
Because it's depreciating. I'm thinking about all the other things I could have done with that money to make me more money. But my vacations, for instance, I take 3 vacations a year with all my children and my wife. And listen, the reality is my kids are adults now. But I love watching them enjoy the fruits of my labor while we're on vacation, because that's a memory that doesn't depreciate. So those are the things that make me feel rich. And and now at this time of my life, I could do that, but it's as a result of me sacrificing, but alongside, like you mentioned, your wife and your kids do as well sacrifice alongside of you so that you could achieve your dreams.
No doubt about it. And we all have different love languages, right? Things that
Right.
make us tick. And seldom is it the material things for the entrepreneur that really is what drives them. Those are things that come along with it, and it certainly is a nice thing to be able to fall back on. But uh, more often than not, it's not what makes us tick. You know,
No.
your Instagram, as I had mentioned earlier, you're a great follow, and you talk about your dad a lot and him being a mentor. I was wondering if there's a few things you could share, some of the things maybe he's taught you over the years.
Yeah, it's funny. I just did one, and I mentioned about shining apples, and my brother calls me up and he says we need to do a video just specifically on shining apples. So my father had a really big deli side of his business. He was close to the Navy Yard. There was a lot of ships being built back in those days. He used to sell tons and tons of sandwiches. And my brother and I, our job, because we were there all summer, we would get there at 6 in the morning with my dad. And our job, what he would pick up 3 cases of apples every morning on the way in. Everything had to be fresh, right? So we'd leave the house at 4:30 in the morning. He'd pick up his produce, and we get to the store. And we'd have to wash the apples, and then we'd have to take Western oil with paper towel and put a little Western oil on it, and we shine each apple, right? And he had a big display, right, in the refrigerator in the front by the cold cuts, and another one on the counter. And he'd sell literally, I don't remember how many apples were in those things, but at least 150, 200 apples a day, right? So we were shining apples and then when I was 14, my dad took off a week and I was in charge of the store. That was my first experience of being the real boss, right? And that week I told my brother, I said, we're not shining apples. Well, we only sold maybe a half a case of apples a day.
I believe it.
So by Thursday, I says, we need to start shining apples. So guys, what the point is, I learned how to flip property by shining apples. Property, all you're doing with property is just shining it.
That's it.
Giving that curb appeal, cleaning it up, doing all the things that the previous owner was too lazy to do, or maybe, was incapable of doing it, either for physical reasons, economic reasons, whatever the case may be. So all we're doing as real estate investors on a daily basis is 2 things: resolving someone else's problem and then shining the apple.
I love it.
Yeah. And I learned that from my dad, shining apples.
So do you work with other family members now?
I do. So my brother David and I, we work together. My younger brother Derek, he's involved with some of the properties that we do own because he was involved with in the earlier years. So we're partners with that. But primarily, I take care of all the properties. I pretty much run the day-to-day operation on the properties. My partner that I'm on a daily basis with is my brother David. We do everything together, our fix and flips as well in the state of New Jersey and Florida. We have many doors that we hold. As I said multiple times, the real money in this business is in the long-term hold. And we love the condo side of the business, especially in Central Florida. We've got over 150 doors there. So he handles the day-to-day operations with, as far as maintenance is concerned and repairs and the renovations of that side. Yeah.
So could we talk a little bit about the portfolio? Buying and selling a couple of lots when you were younger is one thing. Growing it and scaling it is an entirely different animal, especially when it's not a localized portfolio. There's a lot of challenges that come along with that. Can you walk the audience through kind of the gap between having a few lots in Brooklyn to hundreds of doors down in Central Florida and literally thousands of flips along the way? There had to be a hell of a story in between, right?
So, we were doing extremely well in the early 90s, right, in New York. But it got to the point where the fundamentals didn't make sense. There were no fundamentals. The numbers weren't making sense. And then we found ourselves stagnated. And my brother-in-law, who's an incredible businessman out of Miami, kept talking to me about Cape Coral, Florida. And my dad was at one, after about 6 months, he says, look, every time he comes to New York, he's talking about Cape Coral. He obviously knows what he's doing. He does well. Let's take a trip out there. So I said, sure, let's go. And I bought my first 6 properties for $3,000 a lot. There was absolutely nothing there. You could drive for 20 minutes. You saw no house. It's Cape Coral, Florida is out of Lee County. You could fly into Fort Myers. The woman there that my brother-in-law introduced me to this day, I still do business with her. Her name is Lucy Quinones. And I said to her, why would anyone buy here? Because I'm coming with a New York mentality, right?
Sure.
And she says, come here 5 years from now, there'll be nothing available. So I bought 6 lots. We go back, I talked to my brothers 6 months later. He said, yeah, go buy us 6 more lots. Whichever ones you pick is fine with us. And now the prices have doubled. They're at 6,000. And again, didn't make any sense, but I bought them anyway. So the first 6 lots, I actually put 3 lots each under my daughter's names in their trust accounts. And those lots, when they were ready to go to college, I sold them at around $55,000 a piece. Literally. So I have degrees behind me. Only one of those is mine. The rest belong to my kids. And that's their gift to me. Dad, you paid for it, so you might as well have it. So it reminds me, though, every day when I walk into my office, what I do this for. But, literally those 3 lots each paid for the majority of their college educations. So essentially that $9,000 gave me back $165,000 in return.
Wow.
Each, right? So, but it didn't make sense the way it raised so quick.
Yep.
So we started moving more north. We started looking for other areas in Florida where it did make fundamentally sense. And back then we didn't have the internet that we have today. So we had to do a lot of traveling. And, we did a lot of research. As much as we researched, we could do from here. And then we'd get in a plane and then go confirm our research. So 90% of the time, whatever we thought was there, we came back not buying. Because once we got our feet on the ground and we were driving around and we started talking to people and going to the buildings department and asking certain questions, it didn't make sense. So we ended up in an area called Sarasota County. We bought a lot in Northport and in Punta Gorda, which is a gorgeous area. But the developers were right on our heels. They were coming in right behind us, right? And they were always bringing in up the numbers. So as we kept going up north, and now we're up in Putnam County. We're buying heavy there, real heavy right now. The numbers all make sense. There's a lot of everything around it is blowing up. Every single county behind it around it is blowing up. Marion County, which is Ocala, Flagler, which is Flagler Beach. Above you have St. Augustine. Above that you have Jacksonville, and then they're doing a lot of road expansions. That is making easier for commerce. So these are all the things we look for, right? We look for where if the big box stores are opening up. We look for if road expansions. We look for hospital expansions. We look for what the big boys are doing because they're putting in millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
And then that's how we decide where we're going to buy. So in 2010, we started buying a lot around Lake Mary, which is in Central Florida. And the reason we were buying in there was because we had done our research. We had been speaking to a lot of people. We were going to a lot of council meetings, and we knew they were going to really start developing the medical center that was there. So we were buying lots there at, $3,000, $5,000. And then when they went up to 30, 40, we sold them.
So are you buying these lots that are in planned subdivisions already, or are you buying big pieces that
I don't,
are being acquired and
it
subdivided
totally
later?
depends. So if it's in a subdivision, it depends on the HOA. If they're organized or not. If they're not, I don't buy in it. It also depends, if the HOA is already charged the previous owner for the water and sewer coming across their land in front of their land, because I don't want to we don't know what that is, and that's a big variable. So I'm not gonna sell that to an investor that may get stuck with that unknown variable, because at the end of the day, I've been doing this since 1989. I have the same office phone number since 1985. I'm not going to change my number. I'm not going to hide from anybody, right? So we want to make sure that when we sell to another investor, that I can't guarantee they're going to make money, but I could guarantee that I'm selling it with good faith, that everything around it indicates they're going to make money.
Got it. So, gosh, there's so many questions I want to ask. Are you doing these kind of one-off acquisitions, or are you buying packages, distress
It
sales?
all depends. So we have people that go out there literally, then they get paid per deal. They're on the team. And I don't care if it's one lot. I don't care if it's 150 lots. I'll buy them all as long as the numbers make sense. The problem when you buy package deals is that there's always bad lots in them.
Yep.
They'll either flood zone, severe flood zone, or they're either wetlands, or they're either locked in, meaning that there's no access to it because there's lots all around it. So what I normally do with those lots, because I don't want to kill the deal, right?
Yeah.
I'll donate those lots to one of the organizations within the same county. So the Boys Club of America, if their camp is near there, United Way, every county has their own United Way. And then what happens, and guys, this is a huge golden nugget that I'm about to drop on you. A lot of the political people sit on the United Way board, whatever that non-for-profit organization is for that area. You now become their biggest contributor when they sell that lot. They want to have lunch with you. They want to talk to you. They want to know who you are. This is your in. So I don't sell the garbage lot because I don't want it associated with me. Mm-hmm. I donate it. I get the tax write-off, and it gives me goodwill in the community.
So he said that was a huge nugget, and I have to put an exclamation point on that. Especially if you're in a location that's not your kind of home turf, right? When you have the ability to sit down with the movers and shakers, the decision makers, the policy makers in a location that's new to you, that's where you're able to glean a lot of that information. That's where you're able to understand and see where is the growth and what is the opportunity. You had said you felt it in the 90s. Certainly we feel it today. The barrier to entry in New York for real estate is extraordinarily high.
No, and to me, to be honest with you, it's got to be a really sweet deal for me to buy now in New York. I mean, look, everything I have is long-term, and I don't sell anything I have in New York, with the exception of it having been vacant lots. I don't sell anything with a structure. No, I shouldn't say that. 4 years ago, I sold on a deal on Spring Street, but that was because it was such a ridiculous number.
Yep.
It would have been foolish for me not to sell. And I took that money and I turned that into an 18% cap rate, moving it over to Central Florida.
An 18 cap.
18 cap.
Wow.
And it's increased in asset value at about 13% per year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So about 4 or 5 years ago, we started screaming it from the rooftops that there was a decentralization of real estate happening in the major cities across the country, right? We started to see a new metric that traditionally wasn't really accounted for in the analysis, and that was legislative threats. We started to find that the legislative threats were becoming so profound that it made sense. We told all of our clients, we do a lot of consulting work, get out of multifamilies, get into logistics and property if you wanted to stay local, or decentralize and go look at some of these emerging markets that are all the rage now, right? If you look at the top 10 growing markets 4, 5, 8, 10 years ago, and you look at what they are now, they're completely different. Right. So if you're an investor that is either doing a friends and family raise, or they're trying to scrap together money and they're getting started, you can't start here anymore, right? There's not that you just to start. If you don't have a couple of $1 million, you just can't do real damage. So for those who are looking to pick an emerging market, it seems like they're everywhere now, right? Are there certain metrics that at the global level you look at that, give you kind of a sense, what, I need to get boots on the ground and go check things out there? So
I'm in a different position in my life, right? I am now, when I look at a deal, I look at the deal for every reason why I shouldn't take the deal. not why I should. Is that, I'm not sure if I.
That makes complete sense, right? There's a certain measure of risk that every investor has to understand going in. You're now at a place where your threshold for risk has changed and you're looking at the reasons not to buy a deal. And if you can't seem to find enough reasons to not buy it, then you go ahead and take the step, right?
Precisely. So, you know, and it's not as much about the risk anymore as it is about the time that it's going to consume. Because like I said earlier, you know, you get to a point in your travels that it's time to, you know, smell the roses.
Yeah.
Right. Literally. So now it's all about how much time is that going to take, and does it justify the possible income that I can make, right? So, yeah, I do look at a lot of emerging markets. I got to tell you, Connecticut, there's a lot of places in Connecticut that are really still good if you're under 4 units. Dayton, Ohio, another great place. The cap rate is huge. You know, I would tell you Central Florida, but the numbers have creeped up so much. The crap rate's going to look, you're looking at about 6 to 7%, maybe 8 if you're lucky. I don't go anywhere. Okay, I shouldn't say that. A lot of people out here are teaching, you know, it's all about the cash flow, and I don't teach that. My teaching is it's all about the asset appreciation. The cash flow is just the extra. That's the cash flow is paying you to manage that property while the property's appreciating. If it's not going to appreciate, there's no reason why I'm going to get into it. And if you're not walking in with a minimal of 30% equity on the deal after your renovation costs, your 30% equity after your renovation costs is your profit for having taken the time out for the renovations.
Okay, so you're not looking at deals, and I want to touch on that for a minute because I think there's a lot of people that are taking that other advice that are in for a world of hurt when the market changes.
Oh my God, this market right now, you want to play in it, and you want to, if you're going to, you know, you're going to be left without a chair when the music stops, without a doubt.
I couldn't agree more. So you're not looking at a deal unless after you're completed the repositioning or the fixing or whatever it is that you're doing, you've got automatic 30% equity off the hop. And then you're in a market where the appreciation potential is going to outweigh the cash flow benefit in that moment.
Absolutely.
Okay. And what a lot of people are doing now is they're buying cap rate deals just because interest rates are so low, they're enjoying that delta. But when the markets turn and rentals soften and rates shift, because a lot of these products that I see, people are opting to save a half a point, to 3/4 of a point, or a point to get a variable rate instead of locking in to historically low free money interest rates.
It's insanity when I hear people tell me that. I just had a student call me yesterday and asking me if they should do that. And I said, why in God's name would you do that? You're at 3.5%. And saying, well, it's a 0.5% less. I says, what's the cap over the term of the loan? He says, well, it could go up no more than eight points. So I says, so you're looking at maybe 11 points. Why would you do that? I says, do you realize what it's really costing, what that 3.5 is really costing you after you take the tax deduction? What is it costing you? 2.75?
Mm-hmm.
That's free money.
Free money.
I mean, when I started in 1989, my first mortgage was Greenpoint Savings Bank at 18.9% with 6 points. Guys, this is free money.
Yep. And it's not going to be free forever.
No.
Okay. I know a lot of people have been talking for years about rates going up. They're going to go up. Inflation is here. Inflation is coming. It is absolute insanity. If there's any takeaways from this, if you've got those opportunities to lock into fixed product, and the banks are going to discourage it, right? Because the banks aren't stupid. They're going to try and incentivize you and put you in a position where you're jumping for that variable opportunity today, because the banks aren't in it for a 2, 3, 5-year run. They're in it for the long haul, and rates inevitably are going to go back up. When I started, it wasn't quite as high as you, but the first deal I did was, I think, either 11.5 or 11.75, and it was a couple of points. And it was a good rate at the time.
Yeah, so that was like 1998, I think, probably. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And it made all the sense in the world back then because prices were reflective, and rates go down, prices go up. This is a cycle, guys.
Look, guys, I love inflation because I do much better when inflation rate is high because I saved my money. I lived below my means. So now when I go to make a deal, I'm coming in with all cash. Doesn't matter to me if the inflation rate is high or the interest rates are high because I'm not going for a loan most of the time because I'm using
Yeah.
my own cash. When the rates come back down, I'll refinance that property, take my cash back out, and I'm ready again for the next cycle.
So are you investing in any commercial, like retail, office buildings, any of that type of product, or?
I'll do I don't want to, only because again, let's go back to what I said earlier. Not that it's a bad deal, but at this point in my life, it's all about where am I going to spend my time most effectively with the biggest return and still work less, if that makes sense.
It
Right.
sure does.
So I do like buying commercial. What I really like buying though is mixed use properties. That way I'm laying out my risk among residential and commercial simultaneously.
Yep.
So I love, but if I buy in city environments, I love to buy mixed use properties on Main Street. Always buy mixed use properties.
So you're, you know, you're not, neither am I. We're not spring chickens, right? So something amazing about you is you've got a crush social media program,
Oh,
right? You've
thank you.
got tremendous followers, great engagement, great reviews. You know, you and I weren't born with cell phones in our hands.
No.
And, and I have a full service brokerage here, and we're constantly bringing in, the young guns, and even though it's second nature to them, we fight constantly to try and get people to produce more content. How did it become like such a natural thing for you to do the social media thing?
It's not as natural as it looks. Trust me. Uh,
Well, you do a hell of a job. So
um, you know, so my kids had been telling me for years to get on social media, and I was like, absolutely not. No way. I don't want anyone knowing what I do. Right. I was always that person who wanted to fly below the radar. My brother, on the other hand, was the person constantly arguing with me, like, listen, we need to show people who we really are. They'll want to do more business with us. And I was always resistant to that. And my daughter, one of my daughters, who's actually, when she graduated, she got into into the digital marketing sector, and she does extremely well. And she set up all my accounts for me, and she just kept pushing me. And she says, "Dad, I see," because she would forward me links of other people giving advice. And she said, "What do you think about this?" And I said, "This guy's crazy. Why would anybody listen to this person?" And she says, "This is why you have to do it." And it turned out that I really love. I didn't realize how much I was going to love helping people achieve their success,
yeah,
whether it be through real estate or anything else. Because the reality is, you and I both know, there's certain basic aspects of entrepreneurship that goes across any business, right? And I really enjoyed just watching people grow. I couldn't get, and then after in COVID, after the first 2 months, I got bored because I caught up to all my work. So I really dug deep into social media, and I'm not going to kid you. I learned a lot, and yes, I do a lot of. Most of my content is all me. 99% of my content is just me on my cell phone, on a job site, on my travels, what I'm doing on a daily basis. Because I want to explain. I wanted people to understand the truth. This is not an easy business. I'm not that, because I'm not selling anything. I don't charge for anything.
Yep.
I'm not selling mentorship. This is all free. I even do a free mentorship class every Wednesday night to anybody that wants to join. All they got to do is go to my website, sign up, and they'll get a link every week.
So thank you for that, by the way. Because most times people are selling stuff, and I think that you hit the nail on the head. That's probably what's so different about you, is it's just authentic. You're telling a story. You do a series of videos, which I like. You show different parts of the renovation at different times from an initial walkthrough and acquisition to some of the problems and challenges that you come. You don't hide that stuff. You show
No.
the genuine side of what you can encounter in this game. And then you show on the disposition side, you've had your attorney on, like you've really kind of opened it up. And again, I appreciate that, because a lot of people, they don't show that. Everyone's always in a suit and they're, at the closing table
No.
and smiles and checks, and they live.
I'm showing you, I'm sitting in my work van.
Yeah.
And it's a dusty old work van. It's not, no, I want people to know the truth. It's not as glamorous as it appears to be, but it's extremely rewarding if you could stay the course.
Yep. So the real estate podcasting and just in general, the podcasting, are you enjoying that part of it? There's like a whole community and a subculture I found in podcasting. What's your experience?
Well, I'm not, so I'm not doing the podcasting. It's literally a Zoom meeting every Wednesday night, with the exception of the summer months. I'm only doing it twice a month rather, because, it's summertime. I want to take it easy. It takes time. I do a lesson plan prior to doing this. I actually have a lot of guests on, people I've actually done business with, mortgage brokers, real estate brokers, attorneys, explaining what's the difference between an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp, a partnership agreement. I actually have people on that I actually do business with, right? Other real estate investors that may be in a different part of real estate investing that I'm not in. For instance, like deed in lieu of trust, for instance. I don't do those. But if you go out south, if you go out west, that is actually a common practice. But I don't practice in those areas. So I brought in people who actually do, so I try to educate not only on what I do, I'm an expert in, but if I'm not an expert in that field, I try to bring other people in that I've actually done business with that do practice within those fields that I don't normally practice in.
So how does, is there even an opportunity to do business with you at this point, at your level? I mean, do you take investors? Are you just looking for deal people?
I'm constantly looking for deals. And, one of the things that has happened that I was a little surprised at, when you do the right thing, I guess, it comes back to you. So I've had students go out there, look for deals, come across a deal that they can't handle. My brother and I'll step in. They get paid as a wholesaler. But what they also get is they get to stand next to us on a daily basis while we bring that property from the beginning to the end, and they're learning the entire process.
Yep. So could you explain?
I found deals that I would have never gotten, is essentially what's happening.
Well, it's a round world, right? And when you put good out there, it absolutely comes back to you. And I know you've been on several podcasts because we've listened to them, and we've actually been on some of the same shows. And for me, the podcast was something that was way out of my comfort zone. We started this during coronavirus. Same thing. We kind of caught up and we were like, shit, we got to do something, right? We got to keep busy.
Yeah.
So we started the podcast during coronavirus. It's grown exponentially.
And I got to tell you, your guests are phenomenal. You're
you.
bringing in some super good guests that are bringing tons of value to the public.
Thank you. It's I actually think I want to write like a book about the first year. There's a subculture and a community of people that are so willing to help.
Yes.
They just want to get on and talk like yourself and share what are legitimately, and he's got this on his social media, guys. You'll see golden nuggets or the nugget drops, like you'll see the tags, and listen to them because they are gems. They are legitimate golden nuggets. And people are, there's this whole culture of folks that are just so willing and eager to share and help. It's been an amazing, this last year has been unbelievable for me just through the podcast alone.
You know what I found, James, and this was one of the other sides of the business that I was pleasantly surprised with. The people out there like yourself and me, it's unbelievable how much we enjoy talking to each other.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to kid you. I thought in the beginning they were my competitors, but in reality, the more I talk to my competitors, the more I'm actually learning, because they're doing things differently, right? And I'm doing things differently. So we're picking up things different from each other. And this goes across not only locally, but nationwide. So like Mark, for instance, he's out of California. Welby, he's out of Connecticut. I, Chris Haskins, he's out of Virginia. Um, I can't tell you how much I've learned, but I've learned more from the younger generation, the 40 and younger, because they've embraced technology, because I guess it was so easy for them because they grew up with it.
Yep.
And they're actually teaching me how to be more efficient with new technology that I was too scared to do earlier. They've taken me out of my comfort zone.
Yep.
And I got to tell you, I'm loving it. And I only wish I could live another 50 years so I could see how this entire landscape of a business is going to change over the next. It's what we see today will not exist even 20 years from now.
I couldn't agree more. I think that real estate has been one industry that, while it has changed with technology, if you think about how everything else we do, from what we eat and how we treat our health and how we travel and how we communicate, it has been profound change. And real estate is that kind of clunky industry that's starting to take those little steps. But man, I think we're in for a revolution. I think it's going to be exciting as hell. We're developing apps that are deal source apps now. There's so much neat stuff. And you're right, having the younger guys around to kind of teach you these different tips and tricks and little nuggets that they have in the digital space.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's pretty wild stuff.
It is. Listen, think about this. Could you imagine in 1998 when you were doing your first couple of deals, DocuSign?
Nah.
Or Zillow? Think about that, right?
How
far is the MLS? I find that the MLS has come far, but not. I don't think the MLS has actually kept up with the speed of the change in the industry, for instance.
Yeah, they haven't. And when I started, there was no modems. There was a book, right? You got the book, and you sat and you literally. And people ask me, "What do you mean you got a book? How did you know what was new?" You read the damn book.
Right. Yes.
Right. When the book came out, it was this thick.
Yeah.
And you sat and you flipped through and you put little cards in for the different clients, and you wrote it down on a piece of paper. When you wanted to research land, you pulled the microfilm, you found the card, you put it on, and it made the image. And we used to take tracing paper and we would trace it out, and then we would send it to clients, and we were the innovators back then, right?
And if you wanted to read articles, you had to go to the public library and take out the microfiche as well, and then look it up and try to get your information that way. Yeah. So listen, yes, I don't, like I said, I wish I could live another 50 years just so that I could watch how things have changed and sit there and enjoy it. Yeah. I'm not going to kid you. I'm loving it right now. I get to meet people like you, right?
Absolutely.
And we're meeting tons of. I've never been so social, actually, until I've mastered this platform.
Me either. But I think we both were probably head down guys. That same thing. I resisted any notoriety. To me, it was you keep your head down, you keep your mouth shut, and you work. That's how we were taught.
Right.
Right. Yeah. But when you lift your head up, there is quite an amazing world out there. And I can't be more appreciative for guys like you taking the time that have had so much success to come on and to share with the audience some of the tips and trinkets. Daniel, this has been an absolute pleasure for me. I was really looking forward to this. Folks, it's Daniel Borrero. He's the president and founder of USA Land Ventures. Definitely check him out on Insta, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the platforms. He's got he's a really great follow. So Daniel, thanks again for the time today. I really, really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. And I got to tell you, I'm extremely humbled to be on your podcast. Like I said, you do a great job, and I'm really impressed with all the guests that you have on.
Well, thank you very much. As always out there, everyone, keep the comments, suggestions, criticisms, all of it. Keep it coming. We love it all. Stay safe, everyone.